Lafferty is a hardwood wholesale distributor. We sell lumber products, hardwood lumber. We do have a processing mill, and so we work mostly with architectural millwork, custom cabinet and furniture manufacturers. That's the majority of our business, but there are a lot of other related businesses that purchase hardwood lumber that we go ahead and service. So it's a regional facility. We service customers in about a 125-mile radius out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, or out of Lemoyne, just across the river. Most of those customers, though, are to the south and east of us, because most of the area north and west of us is where the trees are, not necessarily where the customers who purchase those finished products are. So most of our business is south and west, but it's about 125-mile radius that we go ahead and service. The company started in 1915, so it had a long history, lots of customers that go back. I don't think there are any that go back quite that far, but there are many that I know go back more than 30, 40 years. A lot of ones that I've had a lot of experience with over the years. So that's our primary business, a wholesale distributor of hardwood lumber. So I was an employee of Lafferty and Company. I was aware that Lafferty had an arrangement with Summit about marketing for the sale of their company. I was hired because I had known the two previous owners. We had worked together probably 25 years previous to that. At the same company, they left there and purchased Lafferty. They were two partners who had a great opportunity, grew the business, didn't have any children that were interested in continuing the business, which is really part of why they bought the business in the first place. The original owners of the company had gone now to the third generation, and they had not expressed any interest in continuing to own the business. And so this opportunity came up to them. After owning the business for 25 some years, they decided it was time for them to move on. And they approached two employees, I being one and my business partner, about going ahead and purchasing the business. And so that was our first exposure to Summit. And we worked with the individuals there and going through several different steps in creating that initial purchase, which we were then able to complete just at the end of December of 2012. So we started off January 1st, or really January 2nd, as new owners of an ongoing business. We had a very successful 10 years, but we had reached a point where I was a little bit older than my business partner, and reached a point where it was time for me also to move on, to sort of transition out of this. And so we contacted Summit again because we had a good experience with them the first time from a purchasing side, and now we're interested in working with them to complete this stock sale of the business. So I've had some interaction with several of the employees through the years, through those 10 years, just keeping in touch, working through some other issues. And when it came time again to put the business up for sale, that's who we chose to go with, and ultimately completed a new stock sale of the business, and we're going through that transition now. So because we've had experience with both ends, both with the buying of the business and the selling of the business through Summit, we've had exposure to several different team members that Summit has, both from a banking standpoint, from a financial standpoint, from an accounting standpoint, helping with legal questions that come up. And I've had definite interactions with at least 4 or 5 different individuals at Summit who were able to help answer questions that I had, or were able to ask questions that I was able to provide information that helped with both ends of those transactions. And so it became quite evident that the experience that they had and the exposure to a lot of different areas was extremely valuable. I know that just this last transaction here with the selling of the business, there were several interactions with the lawyers that we needed to have to help consolidate the transaction, that there was a lot of information that the team there at Summit was able to shortchange some of that interaction, which ultimately reduced the overall cost, additional costs that occurred through having legal expertise and helping through a transaction. So it was extremely valuable with the number of experienced people that Summit has to help go through the transaction, especially obviously the selling of the business is one that's freshest in my mind. And of course, that went very smooth. So I'm very appreciative of their efforts.
That's fantastic.
When the COVID hit and we received the notice from the state of Pennsylvania that businesses were to be shut down, it hit us hard. So we were down for 3 days, but then we received an exemption because one of the byproducts that we produce through our processing of our lumber is shavings or sawdust, and that goes into the agricultural industry, particularly for bedding for animals. And so they couldn't interrupt all those processes, so we were able to open again. The impact came from a lot of our customers were not able to be open, but because we were a multi-state supplier, the situation in the adjoining states, Maryland and Virginia, was such that those customers were able to be open. And so we were open and operating, but on a reduced scale. That equated probably about 35 to 40% of our business. So it helped us to ramp up and to get started. Through that, we participated in some of the COVID-related loans that were available. There was help through our bank at the time to help proceed through that. And it helped us go through that initial 2020 and into 2021 business cycle. The result of all that, though, was a reduced financial statements because our business was down because we didn't have as many customers. We gradually grew out of that. And started back into 2022, back in a very positive financial situation, and certainly through 2023. But as you go through this transition about being able to operate or put your business up for sale, generally they're looking for at least 3 years financial history, which took us back into part of the slowdown that was a carryover from the COVID timeframe. So there were some additional explanations that needed to occur through that. Plus, there was at least we had one SBA loan on the real estate and one SBA loan on the business and another EIDL loan that needed to be taken care of as part of the transaction in the stock sale of the business. And Summit was instrumental in helping us navigate through those waters about taking care of the information that needed to be provided, how things need to be phrased, the timing on certain things, and how it all placed an impact on what the final sales agreement was written as for the sale of the business. And so their expertise was extremely helpful through all those. There's some extended information from that. We actually had two businesses that we purchased. One of them was the real estate that rented the property to the operating company. We sold the operating company, a stock sale of the operating company. My business partner and I retained ownership of the real estate. So we're continuing to rent the property to the new owner. And so that part of it continues on. So we've signed a long-term lease with them to help them transition and to have a stable facility so they know that where they are. And we have a a nice location. It's has great opportunities for transportation. So logistically, it's positioned very well to be able to service the type of customers that we have. So transitioning through that, we were able to retain ownership of the real estate. At some point in time, the new owners may be interested in purchasing that. That'll be fine. But at this point, they're purchasing just the stock of the operating company and continuing to sell that. I'm helping, both of us are still helping transition this through this, but I'm gradually working my way towards retirement. At some point in time over the next couple of years, I'll move more into that. But in helping with this transaction, I'm helping to do the transition through encouraging, relying on my experience and knowledge of the customer base and the areas of the business that I primarily dealt with to help the new owners transition to be successful after this continues on. Couple of things, you know, even after the final sales agreement's been signed and we've received the funds that completed the transaction, there's still some issues that come up, mostly legal things, with final papers being, everything being finalized and getting copies of everything. And there's still one portion of it that it's been more than a month now that Summit has continued to follow up on to make sure the paperwork flow is going to reach completion. And it's because of a particular government loan that takes a little longer to process than other things. And so that's still ongoing. And we've had continued contact with Summit as they've continued to make sure that things are still flowing correctly. They're trying to just make sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's dotted so we can reach the final conclusion of this. So it's been a very rewarding, encouraging experience with them. And I highly recommend viewing them as a partner if you're looking to go ahead and because of my experience with purchasing and selling the business, they work both ways, and it's been extremely helpful. We continue to look at them for selling the business because of the positive experience we had in purchasing, and now we've had positive experiences at both ends.